this episode, I thought I would take you behind the scenes into my book that is in the Come What May collection. Now, this collection released in August of 2023, and it was so much fun. Now, if you get the paperback, it's massive because it has four basically full length novels. But mine is The Art of Deception. And I thought it would be kind of fun just to take you behind the scenes and let you know, number one, why I decided to be part of this collection and why I chose to write what I did. So, when I'm writing, normally, most of the time, I would say 35 or 36 of my 40 books, yeah, probably 36 of my 40 books have all been under contract. I have been very blessed and fortunate that I don't have 5 or 6 books sitting on my computer waiting to be published, looking for a publishing home. My very first book was picked up. I wrote it after I knew that a publisher was interested in it. And the same thing, I've just been very fortunate in that respect. So when I write, I have a contract. But there have been a few times in the last few years where I have gotten together with some of my friends and we've done indie collections. And you might go, well, why would you do that? Because I don't get paid up front to write these books. And usually they're novellas. So normally they're a shorter 20 to 25,000 word book. But Art of Deception came in at like 53 or 54,000 words. So it's the size of those smaller paperbacks that you would find at Walmart or any of the, Meyer, any kind of book like that. So a Harlequin sized book. And I could have tried to sell it to Love Inspired Suspense and it probably would have been picked up. But I like to do these collections because I like to help my friends find new readers. And it's a good way for people who may not have tried my books to discover me. And so I think of them as a way to do some marketing. But with this one, I had a really intentional purpose as well. So, number one, I wanted to do that. But number two, this is what I call the prequel or part one to the new series that is coming out with Kriegel. So, my new legal suspense series that's coming out in April of 2024. Now, I could say that I've actually been building to the series for a while. So the novella that came out in Mistletoe Square, Christmas at Mistletoe Square, kind of starts it. And then I was in another indie collection that same kind of Christmas fall season 2 years ago. That was more of a suspense collection that tied to the Christmas at Mistletoe Square novella, but also is building into this one. Margot, who's going to be the heroine of book 2 for the Kriegel series, the heroine of that collection, Deadly Drive, I think. One of them. I've had one of the heroines actually lived in the house that Margot lives in. So I do things like that where I kind of try to tie them all together so that you as readers, you could be like, oh my gosh, I see how Kara was kind of creating this fun world for us. So in Art of Deception, you're going to have that same experience. And in fact, if you've read Art of Deception, I tell you at the end of it, if you want to know more, make sure you read Race to Own. Well, we've changed the title. So I'll get all the updates out. So the title now is The Vanished, which actually fits really, really well with what's going on. But I wanted to tell the story of the hero's sister. So the hero in The Vanished is a museum curator. But as I was doing research, I kept coming across just between the research for We Three Kings, the novella collection that comes out in September, and what I was doing for what's now The Vanished, I had too many ideas. And sometimes that happens where I just get on this research path where I'm like, oh my goodness, there's too much. There's so many fun things and my mind gets going. I start finding all these amazing books and I swear the Amazon delivery guy was just going crazy because there was just this flood of research books. And I didn't even grab them all from downstairs because I finally took them to my downstairs shelf because it was taking up a full shelf here. And those books are all written now. But I was doing things like The Art of the Con. And so I was digging into, there's this whole kind of I guess I'm going to call it thread of crime related to art, because art isn't regulated. And I'm not, I don't have a problem with that. It's just the reality. And so because it's not really regulated, there's a lot of opportunity for the bad guys to take advantage of these loopholes. And so my mind just has been spinning actually for a while with that idea. And I had originally thought I could put it into the Vanished. And I was like, the book's already got several layers going because there's kind of 2 World War II threads and there's a more modern thread. And I was like, it's going to get way too complicated if I try to add this art is money laundering thread. But I love it. And I think it's so cool that I wanted to write it. And so I was like, it's perfect when I got invited to be part of this summer suspense collection. And so that's what became the kind of the foundation for Come What May. And I had so much fun digging into it. I cannot tell you how much fun. It was, I mean, some of the books I have would really worry you if you saw them. You would think I was trying to get into money laundering through art. But it was also just kind of digging into the whole idea of why are they so desperate to believe that this piece of art could be the one, the undiscovered painting by Rembrandt or Vermeer or whoever. And it's just, there's so much interesting like psychology that could go into it. And I could still be researching right now if I hadn't had like a deadline. If Lisa Phillips and her team had been like, okay, we actually need your book so we can get the book out so people can read it. And of course, there were all kinds of ties to World War II that I could have gone down again and gotten just lost in, because there are so many cool ways that it all ties together. Like, did you know that Vermeer is like the most forged painting or artist of all time? And Rembrandt is like the most stolen artist of all time. And so there were so many different things I could do with that. And you'll see that they come up in these different books that I've been writing, because there's just so much you can do with it. And then there are all these secondary not characters, but secondary artists that aren't as well known. And then there's the way that modern contemporary artists are being stolen from, because they are trusting of people and believe them when they say, we're going to help you. And so it's just this really fascinating area. And because it's not regulated, and because there are these free markets in places like Switzerland where you can hide art, and this art that hasn't been seen for 20, 30, 50, 70, 80 years, people are willing to suspend belief and believe that, well, now maybe this is the actual, Sunflowers by Van Gogh, because we haven't seen it in so long. And so that leads to environments where then you can take dirty money and you can buy a piece of art and then you can resell it, and now it's clean. And so that's part of the foundation, just a part, but that's part of the foundation for the book. And then really started looking into lost art. How do you recover it? But then that really plays into the Vanished. And so the two really go together. But you can read one. You don't have to read both. You can try one and go, okay, that was interesting. That was fun. There's some suspense. There's lots of mystery. There's romance. And this is, I will say this, since 2007, 2008, or 2008, 2009, whenever I wrote the 2 books for Love Inspired Suspense, this is the only other book where I have a law enforcement sort of hero, sort of. He's a consultant for the FBI. And so maybe it'll spin off a second series. I've got ideas for a second series that could be related, where this one could serve as like the pivot point for two. Wouldn't that be fun? So I don't know. Stay tuned. We'll see. But that's a little bit more behind my book in Come What May. So Come What May is a collection, and it's just the only way it's a collection is it's in this particular one, it's 4 authors who all had written a suspense story, romantic suspense, and then we just kind of came together. So there's 3 books that are collections of 4 at least 50,000 word novels. And then they're just kind of packaged together. And so if you get all 3 of them, you have 12 novels. But then Art of Deception ties into The Vanished, which will come out in April. So I love doing that. I love kind of creating this complex world where you can read one and you'll feel like you got a full and complete story, but it's really fun to kind of weave them together so that if you read all of them, you've got this rich experience. But if you jump in the middle, it's okay. You don't feel like you've missed anything, but you might want to go back. But if you don't, you're not lost. And so that makes it really fun for me as an author. So I hope you've enjoyed this look into kind of the story behind The Art of Deception and kind of some of the research and the process behind it. And I really hope you enjoy reading it. And I'd love to know what you think. And if you found it interesting, I'd also love to know, are you interested in law enforcement heroes? Because probably 7 years ago, my reader said no, they really would like to have heroes that were more like the men that they know. But I'd love to know, is that still the case? Or would you like to see me write more kind of that traditional law enforcement type of feel? But thanks so much for listening and being part of my larger community.